Good evening, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started on the Finance and Budget Committee meeting of the Washington County Quorum Court for the month of May. I believe Justice Taylor has agreed to do us the honor of prayer and pledge this evening. Justice Taylor.
Thank you. Dear Lord, we come before you with gratitude in our hearts that you would bestow upon us the opportunity to govern the heavy weight that comes with that. Lord, we are not capable of carrying without you. I ask that you would place in all of us a spirit of discernment and wisdom that only comes from you, and that you would remind us constantly, especially as we're seated here in this room, that we are seeking your approval and not the approval of man. It's in Jesus' name I pray, amen. Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Justice Taylor. And with that, we'll move to the adoption of the agenda. Do I have any additions or motions for the agenda? Justice Lyons.
Make a motion, we adopt the agenda.
Motion to adopt the agenda by Justice Lyons, a second by Justice Dean. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? The agenda has been adopted. We'll move right into our monthly reports. First up is Treasurer Hill. Good evening, Treasurer.
All right. 4.1, the Treasurer's Financial Summary. Once again, you see on the first line, expenditures for general fund came in over revenues. That's a common problem we have earlier in the year, if you've heard me the last few months, but for the month of May, we will stop the bleeding because we should see about $9 million in revenue come into the general fund alone. Of course, most of that will be property taxes. If you look down at 2000 road and 3017 jail, they did a little better with revenues coming in over expenditures. But already 1/3 of the year gone, but all of our balances still look to be in good shape. The end of this report, began the month 98 million, ended the month with 97 million in the bank. 4.2, this is the first month we received property taxes in April. You can tell we're down quite a bit from 2023, but I looked at the May returns and we're going to get 7.5 million in that next line next month. So that's $1 million better than last year. So and we're in good shape there as well. 4.3, the ARPA fund, very little activity. Had a little bit in the EOC engineering. Other than that, that was the only expense. We did transfer, since first of the year, $225,000 to general and interest. 4.4, the 1 cent sales tax. 837,000 came in. That's 3.7% over last year at this time. For the year, it's 2.5% over. Finally, the jail tax, same percentages as the 1 cent, but they received almost 1.3 million in April, and for the year, that's 128,000 more than the same period last year. And that's my report.
Questions for Treasurer Hill? Justice Coger?
Thank you. Treasurer Hill, I had a question. Get back up to it. There was a line that said for the crisis stabilization unit that showed an expenditure of $90,166.86, but was that for March? Because they were not open all of April.
Yes, I believe that was for March for UAMS.
Okay, thank you.
Additional questions for Treasurer Hill? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Next up, we're going to move into the Employees Insurance Report. Mr. Angel?
How is everyone tonight?
Good.
Well, we have our numbers in through March, and if you'll look at the color-coordinated spreadsheet, we also have an RX rebate that came in. Traditionally, we see those about a month ahead of when we have true claims numbers from Blue Cross and Blue Shield. But we had another expensive month. Our high claimants that we've discussed over the last 6 to 8 months are still continuing, driven by 2 very expensive cancer treatments. But our total cost came in at about $773,000, but it really didn't impact our bottom line on the account nearly as much as that, because we had about $208,000 in RX rebates come in, which goes back to our new contract, which has been quite helpful. When we came into the month, our account balance was right at $2.9 million, and coming out, you'll see at the bottom of this page, we are at $2.859. So this month cost us about $47,000 after all expenses were paid and all rebates came back in. So yet again, an expensive month, but until we get these several large claimants taken care of and these treatments behind us, we're going to have some rough months.
Justice Ecke?
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening.
I don't know how to even phrase this question, but you said that the 2 largest expenditures were due to cancer treatments.
Yes, ma'am.
And having personal experience with that, it's very difficult. And I guess our hearts and support goes out to those employees and their families going
Absolutely.
through this. But I also know that during that time, they reached out to us saying that you're eligible for, whether they're grants, I don't know what they're called, but it was support where they would supplement and help offset some of the costs that our son was going through. I don't know if that is available to them, or does it depend on the facility?
That's exactly it, Justice Ecke.
Okay.
It very much depends on the facility and if they're a 501c3, whether or not they have a financial assistance program. The Affordable Care Act actually mandates that 501c3 hospitals have a financial assistance program. And many of those are charitable organizations as well, such as St. Jude in Memphis. But if they are not, if they're a for-profit hospital or even a government hospital such as UAMS, then they're not mandated to have the same financial assistance programs.
So it being the government, there is no assistance, federal or
Now,
available?
sometimes assistance might be available, especially through other charitable organizations
Okay.
that the employees could go after. But
Oh, they'd have to go,
yes, where we would be able to assist them would be if the hospital had a financial assistance program, then we could assist them in applying for that
okay.
and getting it. But quite candidly, we don't even know these employees' names. We're self-funded, so
Certainly.
I could look into that, but I don't want to. I have them send me the data already scrubbed because I don't want PHI.
I think that's
So without employees
Confidential.
coming to us, we can't really
certainly,
assist that.
that was just thank you for answering my question.
Yes, ma'am.
Justice Dennis?
Thank you, Judge. I'm interested in whether or not our ordinance on accepting marijuana use by county employees will affect our insurance in any way.
Well, Justice Dennis, I'm not completely up to speed on your ordinance on marijuana use, but I can tell you that most health insurers won't pay for anything that's technically illegal. And as you know, we have some differing opinions on marijuana. Most states have legalized medical marijuana, or many even recreational marijuana. But at the federal level, it's still illegal. And it is still considered a Schedule I controlled substance by the DEA. And the DEA defines those Schedule I controlled substances as having no medical value. So because of those things at the federal level, most of your major insurers, Blue Cross, United Healthcare, Cigna, et cetera, do not cover marijuana, medical or otherwise. So it would have no impact, no, sir, because they're not covered.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
What, a side one on that, what about if we do, will it affect our ratings any? with,
If somehow we could cover medical marijuana, is that what you're saying?
no, if we legalize it for our employees, then will that affect
As long as it's against
our
federal law.
insurability?
As long as it's against federal law, I don't foresee it being covered on a health plan regardless of what we do at a city, county, or state level.
Okay, thank you.
And if it did all of a sudden become legal at the federal level tomorrow and we utilize it, it would be like anything else. It would be a claim. And so the more claims we have, the higher our stop loss goes and the higher our claims payout would go. Does that answer your question,
That
Justice?
answers me. Yes, it does. Thank you.
Additional questions for Mr. Angel? Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Judge.
Next up, we're going to move into the Comptroller's report. Comptroller Sherman?
Good evening. The first report there, we're 33% through the year, so the summary statement of operations, there's nothing that really sticks out to us. Anything over 33% is explainable by one-time payments and things like that. So if you look at the overall total, I think we're at like 25%. And some of that is probably, you'll see in one of the ordinances tonight, sweeping money back. So we're doing good budget-wise as far as sticking to our internal budget. Is there any questions on the first report? On the second report there, I'm gonna slowly start adding some reports to you guys to try to get you some more information. And the first thing I'm gonna add is just showing you the surplus and deficit that this county has operated in over the since 2016. So you can see last year there was a $5.8 million surplus. Some of that, I included federal and state aid there because of the COVID relief stuff flowing in so hard. So that's gonna decrease over time. So I would like to see it shake out before we make any major decisions about, how we're operating as far as in the surplus. But financially, everything's good, as you can see. Is there any questions about that, the deficit surplus? We're killing the federal government. Okay. Then the last report, that just is really just the ordinances that you guys voted on last time. That's partly why I'm trying to add some reports to get some more substance about how the county does financially and important things on the finances. The first one there, just $7,800, that was about the raise, $50,000 on the vehicle for the library, and then we did get some additional funds in from the Arkansas 911 Board, and then that just went straight to the unappropriated for the 911 because it was so low. So this year, if you look at the bottom, we've already added back $204,000 to the unappropriated funds, and then as you'll see in the ordinance tonight, sweeping back salaries, we're going to add more than $1 million more back to unappropriated funds. So, is there any questions? Thank you.
With that, we're going to move into the Comptroller. Why don't you sit right there for just a second? I think we're going to.
Oh, Lord.
We're really going to put you
Put
on
me
the
on the
spot.
hot seat.
We're going to take up new business. Item number 7 is an ordinance amending various budgets for 2024 and for other purposes. I know you guys all have this ordinance in front of you. Comptroller, will you just tee this up and give us some background on this so we can all understand where we're headed here?
Yeah, and this truthfully is a must-pay. This is matching health insurance premiums going into the self-insured fund for our employees. So it's a must-pay. The budget process last year, it was just, we really can't figure out on the spreadsheets what happened. There's a static number in there. It's not a formula. So the formulas weren't calculating on the matching of the premium. So that's where this $300,000 comes from.
Justice Lyons?
Thank you, Judge. I make a motion, we pass this on to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation.
I have a motion to pass to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation by Justice Lyons, second by Justice Dennis. Any further discussion or questions on this item? Justice Ecke?
Thank you, Judge. Just one quick comment to the court. $313,881 is not bad as far as an error. There was a time from 2015 to 2015, 16, 17, when it was million-dollar mistakes by that office. Do you remember that, Justice Dennis? It was not fun. I think we had $2 million errors back to back. So this is pretty good.
Well, you know, on a $110 million budget, 300,000 is less than 0.2%. I mean, the best companies in the world
Yes.
that are for-profit go above and below budget. Now their stock price goes up and down based on that, but even they, when they're operating for-profit, you know, the budget is an educated guess. One of the things that I've heard when I came in here is the budget process is too complicated. So we're going to go through it this year and see what happens and maybe make some changes if we need to and streamline it.
Thank you, Judge.
Any other questions for Comptroller or any further discussion on the item? Item number 7. Any public comments on item number 7? Seeing none, we'll take up the question. I have a motion to pass item number 7 to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation by Justice Lyons, a second by Justice Dennis. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Item number 7 will move to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation. Item number 8, an ordinance amending the Circuit Court budget automation, the Circuit Court Automation Fund budget for 2024. As you guys can see, Judge Lindsay is the administrative judge right now for this term, and they've had to buy some new computer and audio equipment. This is taking money out of their unappropriated reserves to cover that in their budget. So this is not general fund money. They have their own automation fund, and so this is just us approving to take that money out of that and spend it on the audio equipment. Justice Dean?
Thank you, Judge. I'd like to amend this and change the $7,800 to $1,800 or $18,560, and $4,300 to $10,760.
First of all, let me try to get the motion down. We had a motion to amend on line 22, the $7,800, you're amending to a total of $18,560.
Yes, sir.
And that computes to line 26, the small equipment will change to $10,760. Line 27 will come to, oh, okay, I'm sorry. Line 26 will change to $15,060. The $3,500 number will stay the same?
That's correct.
Is that clear as mud? Okay. We're amending, motion by Justice Dean to amend line 22 where it says $7,800. We're going to change that total to $18,560. And the difference in that total number will come from line item 26, line 26, moving from $4,300 to $15,060. And just, Counselor Lester would like to explain that amendment.
Can I second the motion?
Yes, ma'am. Is that a second? Okay. I'm sorry.
So when the comptroller's office today was looking at the expenditures, they noticed that there was an additional amount that had been spent out of that fund in the amount of $10,000. That's the $10,760. That was for some audio equipment in Judge Beaumont's courtroom. And so since we already had this ordinance drafted, the email I got between Judge Lindsay and Jennifer Hinkle, the Assistant Comptroller, was at 2:24 this afternoon. Judge Lindsay said, please add it, the $10,760 to that. So again, it's another expense that they had that we didn't get when we wrote the ordinance it's coming out. So if we take care of it now, we don't have to come back with an ordinance next month to do the same thing just for that amount. That's all we're doing.
Any other discussion or debate on the amendment? I have motions to amend by Justice Dean, second by Justice Ecke. Comptroller?
Here's another example of, they have 127,000 in their unappropriated fund.
He's got to get, no, don't push the button, just get closer to it.
They have 127,000 in their unappropriated funds because they didn't budget enough in the beginning. You know, so the way the budget works is we do the carryover, hold back 10%, and then when then people can budget up to the full amount. They didn't budget near close enough, so it's just sitting in their unappropriated fund. So he has to come back and ask for it to go. So that's going to be a education process with that section.
Any other discussion? Justice Coger?
Yes, thank you. I don't have any problem with this, but I'm trying, how can we transfer from Judge Beaumont's court into Judge Lindsay's court with this one ordinance? Is that?
Justice, or Counselor Lester?
So the circuit court has a circuit court automation fund. It's for all the circuit judges. So this isn't out of one fund or another. The circuit court automation fund has some limitations on what it can be spent on. This is money that the county gets through the administrative office of the courts from filing fees and that sort of thing. So every circuit court in the state of Arkansas has an automation fund, and based on their filings and filing fees, determines how much money they have in that fund. And then there are certain things that the courts can use those funds for. Okay. And so we often see this for use for new audio equipment, video equipment for the TVs. You know, Judge Lindsay and Judge Taylor both have some pretty extensive audio-visual stuff in their courtrooms because they do they have a lot of Zoom calls and video conference calls from the people that testify from the crime lab in Little Rock, so we don't have to get those people to drive all the way up. So this is something that's commonly, this money is used for, that we don't pay out of the county general. This comes out of their automation fund.
Okay, thank you. I did not understand that. So now I see what you're saying. So I make a motion that we pass this on to the full court with a due pass recommendation.
Okay, let's take up the amendment first.
Okay.
We have a motion on the amendment by Justice Dean, a second by Justice Ecke. All those in favor of the amendment? Aye. Those opposed? All right, then we'll have 8.1 as amended. Justice Coger, does your motion to pass as amended still stand?
Yes, please.
So I have a motion to pass as amended by Justice Coger, a second by Justice Dennis. Further discussion on item number 8? Public comments on item number 8? Seeing none, we'll take it up. I have a motion to pass item 8.1 to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation as amended by Justice Coger, second by Justice Dennis. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Item 8.1 will move to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation. Item number 9, an ordinance recognizing and appropriating additional revenue in the amount of $80,529.08 in the Drug Court Grant Fund for 2024. We continue to see and be the beneficiaries of grant dollars from the Attorney General's office. Judge Beaumont's developed quite the relationship there, and A.G. Griffin really supports her work. This is us accepting money for her drug court and appropriating that money out. Justice Lyons?
Make a motion, we pass this to full quorum court with a due pass recommendation.
Motion to pass to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation by Justice Lyons. I got second by Justice Ricker. Any further discussion on this item or questions? Public comments on item 9.1. Seeing none, we'll take up the question. I have a motion to pass item 9.1 to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation by Justice Lyons, second by Justice Ricker. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Item 9.1 will move to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation. Item number 10, an ordinance recognizing revenue in the amount of $393,294 in the High-Intensity Drug Trafficking Areas Grant Fund and appropriating $393,294 from the HIDA Grant Fund to the HIDA 2024 budget for 2024. Justice Ricker?
Motion to pass the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation.
I have a motion to pass to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation by Justice Ricker, second by Justice Lyons. Further discussion on item 10.1? Seeing none, any public comments on item 10.1? Seeing none, we'll take up the question. I have a motion to pass item 10.1 to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation by Justice Ricker, a second by Justice Lyons. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Item number 10.1 will move to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation. Item number 11.1, an ordinance recognizing additional revenue in the amount of $171,507.94 and appropriating $171,507.94 from the unappropriated reserves in the general fund and the jail fund to the various line items in the sheriff, jail and maintenance budgets for 2024. We see these quite regularly. These are for revenues that the sheriff's department collects by providing security at private events. This is us accepting that money in the general fund and then passing it back down to their line items to cover their costs. Justice Ecke?
Thank you, Judge. I'd like to make a motion that we pass this on to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation.
I have a motion to pass to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation by Justice Ecke. I heard second by Justice Dean. Further discussion or questions on item 11.1? Seeing none, any public comments on item 11.1? Seeing none, we'll take up the question. I have a motion to pass item 11.1 to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation by Justice Ecke, a second by Justice Dean. All those in favor? Those opposed? Item 11.1 will move to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation. Item number 12, an ordinance de-appropriating surplus amounts from full-time salaries for various departments and restoring to unappropriated reserves as required by the 2024 budget controls for the first quarter of 2024. This is our regular reoccurring quarterly salary sweep. Justice Ricker?
Make a motion to pass the full quorum court with the due pass recommendation.
I have a motion to pass to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation by Justice Ricker, a second by Justice Lyons. Further discussion or questions on item 12.1? Seeing none, any public comments on item 12.1? Seeing none, we'll take up the question. I have a motion to pass item 12.1 to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation by Justice Ricker, second by Justice Lyons. All those in favor? Those opposed? Item number 12 will move to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation. Justice Lyons?
I'd like to make a motion that we set a consent agenda for items 7 through 12.
I have a motion by Justice Lyons to add items 7 through 12 to the consent agenda for the quorum court meeting. I have a second by Justice Dean. Any discussion on the consent agenda motion? Justice Dennis?
It would just be a simple housekeeping thing, but when we're having full quorum court, could you make reference to the consent agenda as far as the discussion on those items in this meeting? So that people watching, I didn't know so many people watched on TV, but they're hitting me up about different things. And if you said on the consent agenda, it was discussed in the committees, and you can go back to this committee to hear those things talked about.
Absolutely. I'll certainly try to do that.
Like I say, just a housekeeping, not an ordinance or anything like that.
Absolutely. I believe we had motion by we haven't voted on this yet, is that correct? Or did we do? We did vote? Okay. We have motion by Justice Lyons, I believe second by Justice Dean, is that correct? All those in favor of the consent agenda? Those opposed? Items 7 through 12 will move to the consent agenda. Item number 13, public comments. Do we have any public comments this evening? Justice Ecke?
If I may, I'd like to just mention to our colleagues on the Horseshoe that the AAC State Convention is scheduled for August 7th through the 9th. And registration opens May 9th, which is Thursday. And if they want to stay in a nice modern hotel, if they would please let Mr. Allen know that they are interested and to have them registered for that conference. And I think it would be great. It will be in Hot Springs this year. I think they alternate between Bentonville and, or Benton County and Hot Springs every other year. And it would be nice to see a good showing from Washington County. I think you have a lot to glean from, a lot of things that are going on, a lot of changes. But if you'd let him know, it'd make it a lot easier having all of us at once. So thank you.
AAC sends things out quite regularly in terms of resources, and I just say that because if you guys have, if you've never seen an email from them, we probably need to address that and get with AAC and make sure you're on that distribution list. So just let me know if you think there's a hitch there in that. Justice Coger?
Yes, maybe everyone else knows this, but do we have it in our budget to pay for that, for the quorum court members to go? Yes. Okay, thank you.
Additional public comments? Seeing none, we're adjourned.
Hey. Yeah, you did.